Chapter 556. What kind of concept was it to spend 3 million low-grade spirit stones in one go? Even a wealthy individual with a wealth of hundreds of millions would only occasionally spend so many spirit stones. The Qi clan was one of the 4 major clans of the South Mountain City, and their clan assets were calculated in billions. But clan assets were clan assets and shouldn't be mixed with individual assets. 3 million low-grade spirit stones was something that even Qi Junjun, the most outstanding descendant of the Qi clan, wouldn't be able to take out so many low-grade spirit stones. So wealthy? Qi Guang widened his eyes. In his opinion, spending 3 million low-grade spirit stones in one go at the Soaring Rain restaurant meant that Qi Junjun's wealth was at least 100 million, and he was much wealthier than Dongwu Shaonan. Big Sister seems to be interested in him. Is there a chance? Qi Guang's eyes flickered as he thought of a great idea. The stone gambling den was located in the central region of the western part of the South Mountain City. Welcome, young Lady Qi, young Master Qi. Please come in. At the entrance of the stone gambling den, a few reincarnation realm experts welcomed them passionately. Qi Junjun said, "Bring us to the 4th floor." The stone gambling den has a total of 10 floors. The 1st to 3rd floors are the low-class areas, the 4th to 6th floors are the mid-class areas, the 7th to 9th floors are the high-class areas, and the 10th floor is the special areas. At the 4th floor, Li Fuchen narrowed his eyes. The stone gambling den might have 10 floors, but each floor was huge and had a radius of around 100 meters. In the spacious space, there were ores of various sizes that were covered with veined patterns. Some of the ores were only the size of a human head, while some were the size of a house. Some of the ores were surrounded by plenty of battle spirit realm masters who were pointing and discussing. Their faces would flash with conflicted expressions from time to time. This is the Heaven Stone, or? Li Fuchen stared at a human-sized rock with secret patterns. This giant rock had a pale azure color and it was covered with veined patterns. Li Fuchen could see at a glance that the veined patterns contained profound laws, but the veined patterns were too fragmented. It was just like a martial art that was split into dozens or hundreds of portions. It was impossible to comprehend anything from it. Qi Junjun introduced, the Heaven Stone or has the effect of isolating spiritual awareness. It is impossible to use spiritual awareness to see through the Heaven Stone or. Some of the experienced stone gambling experts would normally observe the patterns. The patterns on this or are too fragmented. From my experience, there shouldn't be any Heaven Stones inside. Even if there is, I reckon that it would be inferior Heaven Stones that aren't even comparable to substandard grade Heaven Stones. It wouldn't be worth a few mid-grade spirit stones. This piece of Heaven Stone or was priced at 200,000 low-grade spirit stones, which was equivalent to 20 middle-grade spirit stones. In Qi Junjun's opinion, it wasn't worth it. I see. Li Fuchen nodded. Brother Li, you've just arrived and definitely don't have much experience. Why don't I choose for you? We'll split the profit evenly, Qi Guang couldn't help but say. Don't listen to his nonsense. Qi Junjun glared at Qi Guang. Qi Guang did not care about Qi Junjun. Brother Li, just listen to me. In this stone gambling house, I, Qi Guang, can be considered to have a bit of fame. I once used 100,000 low-grade spirit stones to earn 700 medium-grade spirit stones. What happened after that? I lost so much that I had to pawn my pants. Qi Junjun said unhappily. Isn't that just a slip of the hand? Qi Guang was rather angry that Qi Junjun ruined his plan. Alright. Here are 500,000 low-grade spirit stones. You can go take a look by yourself and stop bothering us. Qi Junjun couldn't stand Qi Guang anymore. She took out a storage bag and tossed it to Qi Guang. 500,000 low-grade spirit stones might be too little, but I will definitely earn a lot this time. Qi Guang chuckled and turned to leave. Brother Li Xiao Guang is always like this. He likes to boast. Please don't mind him. Qi Junjun said apologetically. Li Fuchen laughed. It's normal, he is a young man after all. Young man? Qi Junjun's mouth revealed a strange smile. Li Fuchen's age didn't seem to be older than Xiao Guang, but he actually said that Xiao Guang was a young man. Young Lady Qi, I will take a look by myself. You can do as you please. Li Fuchen didn't wish to be followed by another person. All right. Since she was here at the stone gambling house, Qi Junjun wanted to test her luck. After Qi Junjun left, Li Fuchen released his spiritual awareness and enveloped the tall heaven stone ore in front of him. Li Fuchen's spiritual awareness was at least at the level of a pinnacle primary sea realm monarch. Even Law Fei's realm emperors found it hard to see through the heaven stone ore with their spiritual awareness, but he wouldn't know if he didn't try. As expected. At the next moment, Li Fuchen understood why even Law Fei's realm emperors found it hard to see through the heaven stone ore. Even with his spiritual awareness, he was only able to penetrate half an inch into the heaven stone ore. This heaven stone ore was 1 meter thick. What could it do if it was half an inch deep? Let me try the spirit soul power. Ever since his spirit soul transformed into the pale purple color, Li Fuchen's spirit soul had a new spirit soul innate ability. It was the ability to release the spirit soul power and scout everything within 10 meters. This kind of scouting was 10 times more superior than the spiritual awareness scouting. If the spiritual awareness was like gravel, then the spirit soul power was like powder, and it was even more detailed. The spiritual awareness wasn't able to penetrate the power of law on the heaven stone ore, but the spirit soul power might be able to. A layer of pale purple spirit soul power that could only be seen by Li Fuchen extended out and enveloped the heaven stone ore. Soon enough, this heaven stone ore no longer had any secrets in Li Fuchen's eyes. It immediately turned into an extremely transparent pale purple color, and there was only a small piece of sky green crystal that was the size of an egg that couldn't be seen through with the spirit soul power. But there was no need to see through it anymore. Even if Li Fuchen was a fool, he would understand that the sky green crystal should be a heaven stone. However, he didn't know what grade the heaven stone was. I want this heaven stone ore, Li Fuchen said to the person in charge nearby. This heaven stone ore is worth 200,000 low-grade spirit stones. When the person in charge saw that someone wanted to buy it, he quickly walked over. Here. Li Fuchen handed the person in charge 200,000 low-grade spirit stones. After keeping the heaven stone ore, Li Fuchen continued to scout the next heaven stone ore. With the spirit soul scouting innate ability, even Law Fei's realm emperors wouldn't be able to compare with him in terms of stone gambling. To Li Fuchen, this stone gambling den simply existed for him. Of course, he didn't think that the heaven stone ore couldn't be penetrated by his spiritual awareness. In the past, there wasn't anything that his spiritual awareness couldn't penetrate. After all, his spiritual awareness was comparable with elite primary sea realm monarchs. There were plenty of heaven stone ores on the 4th floor, and Li Fuchen arrived in front of the second heaven stone ore. This was a heaven stone ore that was half a meter in height, and the patterns on the surface were much more complete. It was emitting power of law, and it was much more powerful than the previous one. This time, Li Fuchen's spiritual awareness wasn't even able to penetrate half an inch. If Li Fuchen didn't have the spirit soul scouting innate ability, he might have bought it. But when his spirit soul power permeated in, Li Fuchen realized that there wasn't even a speck of heaven stone inside. It was obviously a piece of useless stone. It seems like heaven stone ores don't just appear when the power of law is stronger. The power of law is related to the patterns on the ore. Chapter 557. There were thousands of heaven stone ores on the 4th floor, but there were only 2 or 3 ores that contained heaven stones in 100 ores. Li Fuchen wasn't worried about exposing his ability and had swept all the ores that contained heaven stones on the 4th floor. He obtained a total of 58 ores. 58 pieces of heaven stone ores had cost him a total of 18 million low-grade spirit stones. Let's go to the 5th floor to take a look. Under the guidance of the attendant, Li Fuchen arrived at the 5th floor. As compared to the 4th floor, the 5th floor's heaven stone ores looked much better, but the heaven stone ores here were much more expensive and were almost 2 times more expensive than the 4th floor. Brother Li, you are here too. Let me introduce you. This is the most outstanding descendant of the South Mountain City's 4 major clans, the Donghua clan, Donghua Xiaonan. Brother Xiaon, this is Li Fuchen. On the 5th floor, Qi Guang was also here, and beside him was a handsome youth wearing black embroidered clothes. Qi Guang, where is your sister? Dong Wuxiaonan ignored Li Fuchen and asked Qi Guang. That's right, Brother Li, where is my sister? Qi Guang asked curiously. He remembered that when he left, Qi Junjun was with Li Fuchen. Dong Wuxiaonan took a glance at Li Fuchen. Qi Junjun was with him previously? Li Fuchen said, I have separated from her. I reckon that she is still on the 4th floor. Brother Xiaonan, my sister will definitely come up later. Get this stone gambling master beside you to help me take a look at this ore first. Qi Guang pointed at the ore that was half the height of a human and had peculiar patterns. Elder Lu, help him take a look then. Dong Wuxiaonan said to the conceited elder beside him. The elder's eyes were very bright as he said indifferently, I don't dare to be called a stone gambling master. I merely have some experience. In the stone gambling world, there were also different grades. Those who had some reputation could be called the stone gambling elite. These people had their own style of stone gambling. Out of 10 times, there would always be 1 or 2 times that they would be able to obtain a celestial stone. Above the stone gambling elites were the stone gambling masters. A stone gambling master wouldn't make a move easily, but once he made a move, he would be able to obtain a celestial stone at least once out of 3 times. Of course, be it the stone gambling elites or the stone gambling masters, they all cherished their reputation. If they didn't have 30% or 40% confidence, they wouldn't gamble on stones. If they had to inspect every piece of heaven's stone, or the possibility of failure would increase by 10 or 100 times. After all, even Law Phase realm emperors would find it hard to see through the heaven stone or, let alone the so-called stone gambling masters. If Elder Lu can't be considered a stone gambling grandmaster, then I guess there aren't many stone gambling grandmasters in Nanshan City, Qi Guang flattered. Elder Lu's expression did not change, but a trace of arrogance flashed in his eyes. Since young Master Qi thinks so highly of this old man will take a look for you. As he spoke, Elder Lu walked closer to the celestial stone ore and carefully observed the patterns on the surface of the ore. After a long time, Elder Lu slowly said, this ore has clear patterns that are scattered but not messy. From the direction of the patterns, there must be a node inside the ore. At that node, there will most likely be celestial stones. This old man suggests that we can buy this ore. There is a high chance that it will rise. Really? Qi Guang was very tempted. This ore was worth 450,000 low-grade spirit stones. If he was able to obtain a subpar-grade heaven stone, then he would be making a profit, at least 10 times the profit. Brother Qi, this ore's patterns might be very smooth, but there are some details that have signs of fracture. The node inside probably hasn't formed and there is a high chance of failure. Right at this moment, a voice echoed in Qi Guang's ears. Qi Guang lifted his head and saw that it was Li Fuchen. In fact, Li Fuchen didn't have any experience in stone gambling. The statement earlier might sound rather professional, but to be serious, it was just empty talk. There was a saying that successful people would always be able to convince others with their words. For a failure, no one would believe them no matter how many times they said it. Perhaps, Qi Guang didn't trust Li Fuchen right now. But after Qi Guang opened the heaven stone ore and realized that there wasn't any heaven stone inside, he would feel that Li Fuchen's words were rather reasonable. Of course, Li Fuchen didn't care if Qi Guang trusted him or not. He was just reminding Qi Guang as they were acquaintances. No matter what Qi Guang chose, Li Fuchen wouldn't lose anything. Ultimately, Qi Guang didn't accept Li Fuchen's suggestion and spent 450,000 low-grade spirit stones to buy this ore. Open it for me. Different from Li Fuchen, Qi Guang chose to open the ore on the spot. It was mainly because he didn't have any spirit stones on hand. If he didn't open it after buying it, he wouldn't have any capital. After hearing that there was going to be an ore opening, plenty of people gathered over. Such an ore opening scene was the best place to increase one's experience. If there was a heaven stone, everyone would study the pattern of this ore. If there wasn't a heaven stone, everyone would be more cautious the next time they saw a similar pattern and wouldn't make a move easily. The heaven stone ore was extremely tough, and if a regular battle spirit realm master wanted to open it, they would have to use their full strength. It was obvious that this scene didn't allow for such an intense move. The stone gambling dens would normally have an or opening knife, and it was rather expensive. A single cleave wouldn't require much strength to split the heaven stone or into two and wouldn't cause a huge commotion. Young Master Qi, I am going to make my move. The ore cutter looked at Qi Guang. Qi Guang nodded. Hurry up and open it. He was very apprehensive and excited, and his mind was filled with all sorts of distracting thoughts. I must open the heaven stone. Qi Guang stared at the heaven stone or crackle. The ore cutter raised his knife high and made a cleave. There was a clear and crisp sound as the heaven stone, or that was half the height of a human, was split into two. The cut surface was empty and there wasn't any heaven stone. This doesn't seem to be good. What's the hurry? This is just the beginning. The heaven stone might not necessarily appear in the center of the ore. Sometimes, it might even appear at the edge. That's right. In my opinion, this ore's pattern is very mystical and refined. There is a high chance of a heaven stone. I nearly made a move earlier. In the surroundings, there were more and more people surrounding and discussing. Crackle. The stone cutter cut down again and again. The heaven stone was 10 times tougher than the ore, and the ore cutter's strength wasn't enough to damage the heaven stone. Hence, the ore cutter was very relaxed and didn't have any apprehensions. After cleaving 108 times consecutively, there wasn't even a single heaven stone dregs. This time, Qi Guang's expression turned pale. This was 450,000 low-grade spirit stones. Before stone gambling, it wasn't considered much to him, but now, it was the majority of his wealth. After 360 cuts, Qi Guang had basically given up. Apart from the first cut that was split in half, the next 359 cuts were made along the edge of the ore that was split in half. Each cut would slice off a finger-thick layer of stone. After over 300 cuts, the ore was only the size of a skull. Qi Guang couldn't help but look at Elder Lu. Elder Lu grunted and was rather displeased. He didn't say that this ore would definitely contain a heaven stone. Dongwu Xiaonan transmitted a message to Qi Guang. Qi Guang, stone gambling is like this. No one dares to confirm if there is a heaven stone inside. Even a Law Phase Realm Emperor wouldn't be able to confirm it. Therefore, Elder Lu cannot be blamed for this matter. You can only blame your bad luck. Qi Guang might be unwilling, but he could only grit his teeth and swallow it. That's right, where is Li Fuchen? Qi Guang looked around and didn't see any traces of Li Fuchen. Chapter 558. The fifth floor does contain more celestial stones. If there were 100 pieces of celestial stones on the fourth floor, there were only 2 or 3 pieces that contained celestial stones. Out of the 100 pieces on the fifth floor, there were 3 or 4 pieces that contained celestial stones. Therefore, there must be a pattern in these patterns. As long as one could grasp this pattern, one would be able to know if there were any celestial stones in the ore. Unfortunately, the veined patterns were too fragmented. No one would be able to completely comprehend the patterns. They could only roughly determine a range. After buying over 30 pieces of heaven stone ores, Li Fuchen was already running low on low-grade spirit stones. He only had about 40 million low-grade spirit stones in total. Li Fuchen. Not far away, Qi Junjun saw Li Fuchen. Beside him was Qi Guang, Dongwu Xiaonan, and Elder Lu. When Dongwu Xiaonan saw Li Fuchen again, he was rather unhappy. He was having a good chat with Qi Junjun, but when Qi Junjun saw Li Fuchen, she immediately went over and made him very unhappy. You're here too. Li Fuchen smiled. Qi Junjun asked, how was it? How many pieces of celestial stone ores did you buy? Li Fuchen replied, I casually bought a few dozen pieces. What about you? Dozens? Everyone including Dongwu Xiaonan was shocked. A few dozen pieces of celestial stone ores would cost at least tens of millions of low-grade spirit stones, which wasn't a small sum. Brother, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't joke around. Dongwu Xiaonan looked at Li Fuchen with contempt and didn't feel that Li Fuchen had the strength to purchase dozens of heaven stone ores. He was probably trying to attract Qi Junjun. Li Fuchen ignored him. Did he need him to believe him? Dongwu Xiaonan didn't know that he didn't believe Li Fuchen, but Qi Junjun and Qi Guang believed Li Fuchen. The other party was able to consume 3 million low-grade spirit stones in a single meal, so he was more than capable of spending tens of millions to buy a few dozen ores. But the two of them were a little worried that Li Fuchen was too careless with his purchases. This was tens of millions of low-grade spirit stones. If not even one of them hit the mark, then it would really be a waste of money. Too rich. Qi Guang murmured. Previously he was more optimistic about Donghua Xiaonan and felt that Donghua Xiaonan's family background and wealth were top-notch. But now, at least in terms of wealth, Donghua Xiaonan was inferior to Li Fuchen. What's more, Li Fuchen reminded him not to buy that ore, but he didn't listen. Li Fuchen, help me take a look at this ore. Qi Junjun had already obtained one ore and was preparing to purchase the second one. Li Fuchen followed the direction of her gaze. In his line of sight was a piece of celestial stone or the size of a water tank. The patterns on the surface of this ore were very messy, but the law aura was abnormally dense, giving off a very contradictory feeling. Before waiting for Li Fuchen to speak, Donghua Xiaonan said, Junjun, this elder Lu beside me is a stone gambling master. Perhaps he can give you some advice? Why do you need to find an outsider? As he spoke, Donghua Xiaonan turned around and said to Elder Lu, help her take a look. Remember, be careful and observe her. Elder Lu clearly knew that Qi Junjun's identity was not ordinary, so he nodded cautiously. In response, Qi Junjun didn't want to embarrass Donghua Xiaonan and had backed off to the side. Elder Lu walked over and observed for 15 minutes before nodding slowly. This ore has messy patterns, but the law aura is abnormally dense. From what I see, there might be more than one node inside. It also means that there might be more than one heaven stone. The chances of winning the gamble is at least 50%. It is up to young Lady Qi if she dares to take the gamble. Qi Junjun didn't say anything and looked at Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen shook his head slightly. Qi Junjun smiled and said, forget it, I am not sure about this ore. It is better to change to another one. Donghua Xiaonan's expression instantly turned gloomy. How could he not see that Qi Junjun was very concerned about Li Fuchen's opinion? Li Fuchen shook his head. If she wasn't going to buy it, what did she take Donghua Xiaonan for? Elder Lu's expression was also very unpleasant. He had spent so much effort to observe this ore, but Qi Junjun didn't want to buy it. Wasn't she playing with him? I will buy this ore. Once the heaven stone is cut open, I will surely give it to you, Junjun. Donghua Xiaonan forced out a smile. Qi Junjun let out a faint smile and didn't say anything. There were two reasons why she didn't want to buy this ore. The first reason was that she felt that Li Fuchen wasn't ordinary. Since he chose to shake his head, he must have something to rely on. The second reason was that Qi Guang had told her about the previous incident. It meant that Li Fuchen wasn't a person who spoke without thinking. Li Fuchen, help me pick two ores then. Qi Junjun suddenly said. Li Fuchen frowned and didn't know if he should agree or not. Young Lady Qi, it isn't a wise decision to let an outsider choose the ores. Elder Lu grunted. Qi Junjun shook her hand and said, it doesn't matter. I am only here once in a while and it doesn't matter even if I lose the gamble. After letting out a breath, Li Fuchen said, follow me. I saw two ores earlier and they might contain heaven stones. While speaking, he walked deeper into the 5th floor. Qi Junjun and the others followed closely. Donghua Xiaonan and Elder Lu had also followed. In just a short moment, the group arrived at the side of two ores. Li Fuchen had seen these two ores before. One had heaven stones and the other didn't. He couldn't choose two ores that had heaven stones as it would be too easy to invite trouble. One had heaven stones and the other didn't. It was the best choice. Alright, I want both of these ores. Qi Junjun said heroically. Elder Lu sneered and said, young Lady Qi, you better reconsider. These two ores have thin patterns and the possibility of a node appearing inside is less than 10%. Li Fuchen said, thin patterns doesn't mean there are no heaven stones. Sometimes, appearances can be deceiving. Then this old one shall wait and see. Elder Lu didn't try to persuade anymore. The final result was the best counterattack and it was useless to say anything now. Qi Junjun spent 500,000 low-grade spirit stones on these 2 ores, and it was only 50,000 low-grade spirit stones more expensive than Qi Guang's previous ore. It was a rather affordable price. Of course, it was mainly because these 2 ores weren't favored. Junjun, why don't we cut the ores on the spot? I also wish to see if this brother Li is truly capable. He better not be a silver spear with a wax head that looks good but is useless. Donghua Xiaonan suggested. Qi Junjun actually didn't wish to cut the ores. It was fine if she could cut out a heaven stone, but if she couldn't, it would be too embarrassing for Li Fuchen. Unexpectedly, Li Fuchen also said, I have yet to see the process of cutting ores. It is a good opportunity to witness it. Alright then. Qi Junjun nodded. At the ore cutting scene, a large number of people crowded around again. Why did she choose these 2 ores? I remember that these 2 ores have been placed on the 5th floor for a few days and no one bought them. It is the Qi clan's young lady Qi Junjun. No wonder she is the #1 beauty of the South Mountain City. Her looks and aura are both top-notch. I reckon that she is just playing around. The surrounding people were in a heated discussion. They were discussing the ores and Qi Junjun. Young lady Qi, do you want to cut the ores? The ore cutter asked. Qi Junjun nodded. Crackle. After receiving the reply, the ore cutter split open the ore. There wasn't any heaven stone on the cut surface. The ore cutter wasn't in a hurry as he cut open the outer layer of the ore. The ore was getting smaller and smaller until it was the size of 2 wash basins. It seems like she lost the gamble. Isn't that so? If an ore with such patterns can produce heaven stones, then every ore on the 5th floor will produce heaven stones. Everyone shook their heads. Seeing that the first ore didn't produce any heaven stones, Donghua Xiaonan mocked. Brotherly, it seems like your foresight isn't good. Junjun, don't interact with such people in the future. I have seen plenty of such people who exaggerate and they don't have any true capabilities. Elder Lu echoed, stone gambling is a form of knowledge. Some people think they can see the patterns, but in our stone gambling world, they probably don't even know the most basic knowledge. Qi Junjun retorted, it is very normal not to produce heaven stones. Is Elder Lu confident that every ore will produce heaven stones? Elder Lu paused, this old man naturally cannot do that, but this old man will not randomly pick an ore. Young lady Qi, do you want to cut the second ore too? When this ore was only left with a pile of dregs, the ore cutter looked at young lady Qi. Cut it then. Li Fuchen said. Then cut it. Qi Junjun sighed. In fact, she didn't mind if these 2 ores didn't produce heaven stones. But she was afraid that the dozens of ores that Li Fuchen bought earlier would be wasted. In her opinion, tens of millions of low-grade spirit stones were at least half of Li Fuchen's wealth. Crackle, crackle, the ore cutter's speed was very fast. After more than 100 cuts, the second ore was already halfway through. It was a pity that there were still no heaven stones. Everyone, disperse. It is impossible to cut out heaven stones. Hearing everyone's voices, Donghua Xiaonan and Elder Lu's smiles were getting brighter. Could he have guessed it earlier? Qi Guang looked at Li Fuchen with a doubtful gaze. Li Fuchen wasn't moved. In his vision, there was a heaven stone that was 1 foot thick on the left side. There was a heaven stone that was azure in color. As long as the ore cutter made a few more cuts, he would be able to see the heaven stone. Crackle, 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 as the ore got smaller, everyone was disappointed. Ding. Right at this moment, the ore cutter's cutting knife encountered resistance. What is that sound? Some of the people who were preparing to leave turned around abruptly with astonished eyes. This is the sound of the cutting knife slashing on the heaven stone. Someone said with excitement. Young lady Qi, there is a heaven stone inside. After cutting heaven stone ores for so many years, how could the ore cutter not know that this ore was going to rise in value? And, continue. Qi Junjun revealed a smile. In just a short moment, a heaven stone that was the size of half a fist was exposed in front of everyone. This heaven stone was azure in color and from the purity, it should be a subpar grade heaven stone. But some attentive people noticed that the purity of this subpar grade heaven stone was much purer than most of the subpar grade heaven stones. It was probably a high grade subpar grade heaven stone. Young Lady Qi, I am willing to pay 500 mid-grade spirit stones for this heaven stone. I will pay 550 mid-grade spirit stones. Meng Laosen, do you have to contest with me? You are the one who wants to contest with me. Obtaining this heaven stone for 500 mid-grade spirit stones? You are simply dreaming. A high-grade subpar-grade heaven stone that was the size of half a fist might be able to be auctioned for 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. This was a profitable business. Chapter 559. Apologies, I am using this heaven stone for myself. Qi Junjun rejected these people's request. What a joke, she didn't even have a piece of subpar-grade heaven stone, how could she sell it to others? With this heaven stone, her future cultivation of martial arts might not be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort, but it would at least be 15% more efficient. Li Fuchen, many thanks. Qi Junjun looked at Li Fuchen with a strange expression. She didn't think that Li Fuchen was blindly guessing and definitely had something to rely on. Big brother Li, help me choose 2 ores too. Qi Guang had already started to address Li Fuchen as big brother while his eyes were filled with flattery. One had to know that his sister had only invested 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, and had earned more than 500 mid-grade spirit stones. This was more than 10 times the profit. Li Fuchen laughed and didn't say anything. At the side, Donghua Xiaonan and Elder Lu had gloomy expressions. Elder Lu spoke with a cold tone, "It is just good luck. Who doesn't have a few lucky encounters in their life?" "That's right, I think it is just luck. Cut open this or for me too." Donghua Xiaonan took out the ore that he bought earlier and placed it in front of the ore cutter. "All right." The ore cutter nodded. He had to be paid for helping others to cut open ores. Each ore would be 100 low-grade spirit stones. The more ores he cut, the more low-grade spirit stones he would get. Donghua Xiaonan's ore was worth 800,000 low-grade spirit stones. Some of the stone gambling elites nodded silently and felt that this ore had a high chance of rising. Once it rose, it wouldn't just be one piece of heaven stone, it would be at least 2 pieces of heaven stones. Donghua Xiaonan was originally apprehensive, but after seeing so many people had high hopes for this ore, he couldn't help but calm down. Crackle. The ore cutter executed the first cleave. Clink. The ore cutter was met with resistance from the first cleave. Rose. Young Master Donghua is going to make a huge profit this time. Once it rises, it will be a few pieces of heaven stones. The profit will be at least 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. The surrounding people were excited. Donghua Xiaonan's expression was as interesting as it could be. It was one thing for it to rise, but it was also another to suppress Li Fuchen. It was best to have the best of both worlds. Donghua Xiaonan couldn't conceal the smile on his face. He looked at Qi Junjun and said, "Junjun, you really shouldn't listen to him. This ore originally belonged to you. Of course, if you can cut out 3 pieces of celestial stones, I will give you 1 piece." He wasn't so generous as to give everything to Qi Junjun. After all, she wasn't his woman yet. "No need, I already have one," Qi Junjun said indifferently. Of course, the one who was the happiest was Elder Lu. As a master of stone gambling, whether or not he could make a profit was the key to maintaining his status. One had to know that he didn't follow the Donghua clan for free. Every year, the Donghua clan would give him 5 million low-grade spirit stones as a reward. That was on the premise that he was able to gamble frequently. If the spirit stones he earned in a year were less than the spirit stones he invested, then he would definitely be kicked out of the Donghua clan. Furthermore, his status in the stone gambling world would also plummet, and no major clan or power would be willing to hire him again. Compared to risking his life to gamble on stones, following a big family was undoubtedly better. He didn't need to risk his life and could still obtain a large amount of spirit stones as a reward. Why not? Just as the situation was going well, the stone cutter separated the ores and reminded, "It isn't a subpar grade heaven stone. It is an inferior grade heaven stone that is the size of a fist." What? An inferior grade heaven stone? There were 5 grades of celestial stones which were substandard, low grade, mid grade, high grade, and peak grade. The inferior-grade celestial stones couldn't even be considered as substandard. A fist-sized piece would only be worth 10 mid-grade spirit stones at most. This wasn't gambling for a profit, it was gambling for a loss. It was better than gambling for a loss. Right now, Donghua Xiaonan's expression was as unpleasant as it could be. What could a single piece of inferior-grade heaven stone do? He didn't even care about 8 or 10 mid-grade spirit stones. Continue to cut, Donghua Xiaonan said in a deep voice. If he was able to cut out a subpar grade heaven stone, then the previous joke wouldn't be considered anything. The stone cutter's forehead was sweating profusely as he continued to cut. Clink. After dozens of cuts, the stone cutter encountered another obstacle. It must be a subpar grade heaven stone. Donghua Xiaonan stared at the ore and wished he could see through it. Among the crowd, Li Fuchen let out a faint smile. There were indeed heaven stones in this ore, but there were only 3 pieces of inferior grade heaven stones. The fist-sized heaven stones were the biggest, while the other 2 were the size of half a fist and the size of an egg. They were only worth a total of 20 mid-grade spirit stones, and it wasn't enough to cover the cost. Apologies, it is still an inferior grade heaven stone. The stone cutter's voice echoed in Donghua Xiaonan's ears. Damn it. Donghua Xiaonan clenched his fist tightly. There should be one more heaven stone. Elder Lu comforted. He was actually more nervous than Donghua Xiaonan. Sister, it is fortunate that we didn't listen to that Elder Lu. Qi Guang transmitted a message to Qi Junjun. He had a grudge against Elder Lu, even though he knew that it was due to luck if he couldn't cut out a heaven stone. Qi Junjun reprimanded, "You better not interact with this Donghua Xiaonan in the future." Don't worry, with Big Brother Li around, I will not interact with Donghua Xiaonan in the future. Qi Guang now treated Li Fuchen as a golden thigh. He didn't expect to be able to cut out a heaven stone every time, but it would be enough for him to do it once in every 5 times. How could Qi Junjun not know what Qi Guang was thinking and was feeling frustrated? Clink. After more than 100 cuts, the 3rd heaven stone was cut out too. Just like what Li Fuchen saw, this heaven stone was still an inferior grade heaven stone, and it was only the size of an egg. It was only worth 2 or 3 mid-grade spirit stones. Donghua Xiaonan had an ashen expression as he felt that Qi Junjun was laughing at him. Li Fuchen was also laughing at him. Everyone was laughing at him. He couldn't help but glare at Elder Lu. Elder Lu shrunk his neck and felt wrong too. He thought to himself, I didn't say that I would definitely be able to cut out a subpar grade heaven stone. I only have a 50% chance of cutting out a heaven stone. Now that I have cut out 3 inferior grade heaven stones, it means that I still have a good eye. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame Qi Junjun for being the first to make a comparison. It is a loss, but it is still fine. I can still earn back 200,000 low-grade spirit stones. Young Master Donghua, I am willing to offer 21 mid-grade spirit stones for these 3 pieces of inferior grade heaven stones. It was unknown what the person who made the offer was thinking. Perhaps he wanted to befriend Donghua Xiaonan. Donghua Xiaonan snorted and said, I am not selling. These 3 pieces of heaven stones can be made into pendants. While speaking, Donghua Xiaonan turned to look at Li Fuchen. Brother Li, you said that you bought dozens of heaven stone ores. Why don't you cut out a few pieces on the spot? It will be a good opportunity for Junjun and me to broaden our horizons. Qi Junjun frowned. This Donghua Xiaonan was too much of a sore loser. He had already suffered a crushing defeat. All right, I am planning to cut the ores. Li Fuchen had depleted all his low-grade spirit stones and was only left with over 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. It was time for him to obtain some spirit stones. Li Fuchen took out 5 pieces of heaven stone ores and said to the ore cutter, cut them all. All right. The ore cutter was filled with enthusiasm. From left to right, the ore cutter started to cut out the first ore. After dozens of cuts, the first ore didn't produce a heaven stone. After 100 cuts, there was still nothing. After 200 cuts, everyone knew that this ore was almost a lost bet. Donghua Xiaonan's gloomy expression had eased up a lot. He was waiting to see Li Fuchen make a fool of himself. If all 5 ores were lost, he would see if Li Fuchen still had the face to act dumb. Without any suspense, The first ore was a lost bet. Li Fuchen didn't mind at all. Earlier on, he was preparing to cut out the ores on the spot. However, he couldn't cut out every single ore. If that was the case, it would be the same as telling others that he had a unique method to distinguish if there was a heaven stone in the ores. It was fine if he was a Law Phase Realm Emperor, but now that he was a Battle Spirit Realm Master, once he exposed his unique ability, he would definitely be captured by some major factions. He would have to help them identify the Heaven Stone ores and wouldn't have his freedom anymore. The second ore didn't have a Heaven Stone either. The third ore didn't have one either. Hee hee. Elder Lu couldn't help but laugh. 3 ores in a row didn't produce a Heaven Stone. It was obvious that Li Fuchen's standards were much inferior to him. Soon enough, it was the 4th ore. Clink. On the 68th cut, the ore cutter cut into a hard material. It is a subpar grade Heaven Stone. The ore cutter said excitedly. He made a profit from the bet. He is truly lucky. I wonder how big it is. As the ore cutter cut open the outer layer of the Heaven Stone, a bowl-sized crystal that was emitting a sky-green color appeared in everyone's eyes. TSKSK, a bowl-sized subpar-grade Heaven Stone is worth at least 2,000 mid-grade Spirit Stones, right? This is 20 million low-grade Spirit Stones and the profit is more than 50 times. Let alone the previous 3 losses, even if he loses 10 times, he will still be able to make a profit this time. Everyone was extremely envious. Damn it, damn it. Why is his luck so good? Dong Wuxiaonan was extremely angry. He was like a gambler who lost so much that his eyes turned red and he was getting irritable. This brother, give this Heaven Stone to me. I am willing to offer 2,100 mid-grade Spirit Stones. Someone started to bid. Li Fuchen said, there is still one more. There is no hurry. That is true. Let's talk about it after the last ore is cut open. Everyone might be saying so, but no one believed that the 5th ore would also contain a Heaven Stone. Crackle. The ore cutter continued to work. The crackle sounds didn't stop and everyone was watching absent-mindedly. Most of the eyes were staring at the bowl-sized subpar-grade Heaven Stone in Li Fuchen's hand. Clink. A nightmarish sound echoed. Dong Wuxiaonan's expression changed while Elder Lu's expression changed several times. Another celestial stone appeared? Isn't his luck too good? The ore cutter looked through the cracks and saw a dreamy sky-green luster emitting out. He said with a trembling voice, this might be a low-grade Heaven Stone. What? Low-grade Heaven Stone? Hurry up and cut it open. Don't keep us in suspense. Under everyone's urging, the ore cutter cleanly removed the ores on the surface of the Heaven Stone. Immediately, a fist-sized and magnificent Heaven Stone appeared in everyone's vision. This Heaven Stone was too beautiful and extremely pure. No one was willing to shift their eyes away. Low-grade Heaven Stone, it is actually a low-grade Heaven Stone. Heavens! Low-grade Heaven Stones were extremely rare. In the South Mountain City's stone gambling den, there might not even be one low-grade Heaven Stone in a month. The previous low-grade Heaven Stone that appeared was only the size of an egg and was incomparable to Li Fuchen's piece. Dong Wuxiaonan had all sorts of expressions on his face. There was anger, frustration, and greed. Taking a deep breath, Dong Wuxiaonan smiled and transmitted a message to Li Fuchen. Brother Li, I am willing to offer 5,000 mid-grade Spirit Stones for this low-grade Heaven Stone. It might be too little, but I can give you the status of an esteemed guest of the Dongwu clan. What do you think? Chapter 560. Gosh, these 2 celestial stones add up to 10 or 20,000 mid-grade Spirit Stones, which is equivalent to 1 or 200 million low-grade Spirit Stones. Qi Guang's eyes bulged out. As an important descendant of the Qi clan, he could only spend a few million low-grade Spirit Stones every year. As compared to Li Fuchen, it was simply insignificant. A random strand of Li Fuchen's hair would be thicker than his thigh. Little brother, my Greenwood Pavilion is willing to offer 15,000 mid-grade Spirit Stones to purchase these 2 pieces of celestial stones. My Scattered Person Hall is willing to pay 16,000 middle-grade Spirit Stones. The representatives of the local forces all offered their prices. How could they not know the value of these 2 pieces of celestial stones? It would not be an exaggeration to say that if it was sold to someone who needed it, it could easily fetch 20,000 middle-grade spirit stones. I am willing to sell this subpar-grade heaven stone to the highest bidder. Li Fuchen only had over 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones and was in urgent need of replenishing. Since he had plenty of ores that contained heaven stones in his storage bag, there wasn't a need to hoard them all. 2150, 2180, 2200, 2300. A subpar-grade heaven stone that was the size of a big bowl was very attractive, and the price was soaring. 2400. My scattered person hall bids 2500. If anyone bids more than 2500, my scattered person hall will withdraw. A middle-aged man with a deep voice, who was at the 9th level of Battle Spirit Realm, looked around and spoke. 2500 is a little too high. Even if I get it, I won't be able to make much profit. Forget it, 2500 is not a small number. Everyone fell silent. 2600. Suddenly, a voice rang out. The one who made the bid was Donghua Xiaonan. Li Fuchen took a glance at Donghua Xiaonan, but I am paying now. Don't worry, not to mention 2600, even if it's 6700, I have it here. Donghua Xiaonan said confidently. The Donghua clan and the Qi clan were different. The Donghua clan's involvement in the stone gambling world was deeper, otherwise, they wouldn't have hired a stone gambling grandmaster. As the representative of the Donghua clan, Donghua Xiaonan would carry a few thousand mid-grade spirit stones with him. This subpar-grade heaven stone is yours. Li Fuchen indicated for the middle-grade spirit stones to be taken out. Donghua Xiaonan tossed over a storage bag. Li Fuchen opened it and there were indeed 2,600 mid-grade spirit stones inside. Not only this substandard heaven stone, but I also want that low-grade heaven stone. Donghua Xiaonan sent a voice transmission after he put away the subpar-grade heaven stone. Li Fuchen said, "Apologies, low-grade heaven stones are not for sale." Even if he were to sell it, he wouldn't sell it to Donghua Xiaonan. What's the meaning of this? Donghua Xiaonan's face sank. Li Fuchen found it funny and said, "When did I say I was going to sell low-grade heaven stones?" Li Fuchen, it is best to know when to stop. Why do you think I spent 2,600 mid-grade spirit stones to purchase subpar mid-grade heaven stones? Don't feign ignorance. Donghua Xiaonan threatened. Buying a bowl-sized substandard heaven stone for 2,600 wasn't considered a loss, but it wasn't much profit either. After all, this substandard heaven stone's purity was only ordinary and couldn't be compared to Qi Junjun's. I advise you to stop when to stop. Firstly, I have never said that I am going to sell low-grade heaven stones. Secondly, I didn't request for you to bid, you are the one who came over impatiently. If you aren't willing, I will return the mid-grade spirit stones to you and you can return the substandard heaven stone. Li Fuchen, are you really going to oppose me? Donghua Xiaonan had a trace of murderous intent. If you think so, I don't mind. Li Fuchen could see that no matter what choice Li Fuchen made, this Donghua Xiaonan wouldn't give in to him and would only treat Li Fuchen as a target to bully. There was no need to be polite with such a person, it was useless to be polite. I hope you don't regret it. Donghua Xiaonan glared at Li Fuchen and didn't conceal the murderous intent in his eyes. Li Fuchen will never regret it. Li Fuchen said resolutely. All right, Li Fuchen. I admit defeat today, but your good days are coming to an end. Donghua Xiaonan snorted and left. As the duo were only transmitting messages, no one else knew what they were talking about. But everyone could see that Donghua Xiaonan was very unhappy and the duo seemed to have fallen out. It isn't wise to offend Donghua Xiaonan. Not necessarily. I can see that this person has a rather good relationship with the Qi clan's young lady and young master. With the Qi clan's support, there isn't a need to worry about the Donghua clan. Everyone was discussing softly. Li Fuchen, Donghua Xiaonan is a vengeful person. You need to be careful. Qi Junjun reminded. Li Fuchen nodded, I know my limits. The Donghua clan might be one of the 4 major clans of the South Mountain City and had plenty of primary sea realm monarchs, but their strongest expert was only at the mid-level of primary sea realm and wasn't comparable with the Red Rainbow sect. In terms of strength, even the South Mountain City's City Lord residence wasn't comparable with the Red Rainbow sect. The strongest expert in the South Mountain City's City Lord residence was only a high-level primary sea realm monarch. The Red Rainbow sect had at least 5 high-level primary sea realm monarchs, especially the Red Rainbow monarch, who was definitely considered a top-class primary sea realm monarch. The Red Rainbow sect couldn't afford to offend the City Lord residents, but they could afford to offend the Donghua clan. Of course, Li Fuchen understood that the Red Rainbow sect was the Red Rainbow sect, and he was himself. There were plenty of times when he could only rely on himself. After all, if the opposition sent experts to assassinate him, the Red Rainbow sect wouldn't be able to do anything. I wonder if your Qi clan is interested in this low-grade heaven stone? Li Fuchen suddenly asked. He still had 5 pieces of low-grade heaven stones in his storage bag, and it didn't matter if he sold one. Qi Junjun was surprised. You want to sell it to my Qi clan? Let's see if you are interested. Li Fuchen laughed. Yes, of course. Qi Junjun was instantly tempted. Low-grade heaven stones were something that even primary sea realm monarchs would be interested in. The entire South Mountain City would only produce over a dozen pieces of low-grade heaven stones every year, and all the major clans would do their best to contest for them. But I don't have that many mid-grade spirit stones on me right now. Qi Junjun said apologetically. Li Fuchen said, there is no hurry, let's talk about it when you have it. Big brother Li, you have already picked 2 pieces of ores for my elder sister, please pick one for me too. Qi Guang pleaded from the side. Li Fuchen said, I should have some innate talent for stone gambling, but I don't dare to guarantee that it will work every time. If you have a few million low-grade spirit stones, I am 70% or 80% confident that you will win one piece. He was already in the limelight previously, and if he maintained the same pace, the consequences would be unimaginable. A few million low-grade spirit stones? Qi Guang blinked his eyes and looked at Qi Junjun. He only had a few tens of thousands of low-grade spirit stones, and it was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood. Qi Junjun said helplessly, I have 3 million low-grade spirit stones here. With the addition from before, you owe me a total of 8 million low-grade spirit stones. Remember to repay them in the future. While speaking, Qi Junjun took out a storage bag and tossed it to Qi Guang. Of course. Qi Guang beamed with joy. Seeing that Qi Guang had spirit stones, Li Fuchen started to bring Qi Guang to choose ores. This one isn't bad. This one isn't bad either. And this one. In just a short moment, Qi Guang's 3 million low-grade spirit stones were spent cleanly and exchanged for 7 pieces of heaven stone ores. Next was the cutting of the ores. The first piece was a failure. The second piece was a failure. The third piece was a failure. The fourth piece was also a failure. The fifth piece was finally a heaven stone. But this heaven stone was only the size of a cup and was worth around 300 to 400 mid-grade spirit stones. The sixth and seventh pieces were also failures. As such, Qi Guang's 3 million low-grade spirit stones would at most earn 1 million low-grade spirit stones. Qi Guang was a little flabbergasted. He thought that he could be like his elder sister, Qi Junjun, earning 8 million low-grade spirit stones in one go. Qi Junjun reprimanded, do you think stone gambling is so simple? It is already good enough for you to earn. You can't blame Brother Li even if you make a loss. Yes, elder sister is right. Qi Guang nodded repeatedly. He might be a little disappointed, but he knew that Li Fuchen was already incredible. If it was someone else, they might make him lose everything. After strolling through the 5th floor, the trio arrived at the 6th floor. Li Fuchen was a little disappointed as the 6th floor had fewer low-grade heaven stones than the 5th floor. There were only 3 pieces. However, it was normal. The stone gambling den could only roughly distinguish the quality of the heaven stone ores. There was no way to know what kind of heaven stone would appear in the heaven stone ores. In fact, they didn't even know if there were any heaven stones. Not everyone was like Li Fuchen, whose spirit soul quality was superior to Law Phase Realm Emperors and had developed 2 spirit soul innate abilities. Li Fuchen didn't hold back and spent close to 6,000 mid-grade spirit stones to sweep through all the ores that contained heaven stones on the 6th floor. Li Fuchen didn't plan to dissect the ores. It was mainly because he didn't buy a lot of useless ores and it would be easy for others to see through him. I wonder how many low-grade heaven stones there are on the 7th floor and if there are any mid-grade heaven stones. Li Fuchen didn't have many mid-grade spirit stones left. After thinking about it, he still didn't head to the 7th floor. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself when he saw the mid-grade heaven stones. A fist-sized mid-grade heaven stone was worth a few 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones. If it was a mid-grade heaven stone with the highest purity, it would be easy to sell it for 1,000,000 mid-grade spirit stones. After leaving the stone gambling den, the trio split up. Qi Junjun returned to the clan to apply for mid-grade spirit stones while Li Fuchen returned to study the heaven stones. The Green Pine Inn was one of the top few inns in the South Mountain City. There were rows of courtyards at the back of the inn and it could provide the most comfortable resting environment for the guests. In one of the courtyards, Li Fuchen took out a piece of heaven stone or shatter. Bursting with qi and sword intent, Li Fuchen slammed his palm on the heaven stone or bang. The celestial stone or exploded and a sky blue stone flew out. This was a subpar grade heaven stone and it was around the size of a palm. I wonder what kind of profound laws are contained in this subpar grade heaven stone. Holding the subpar grade heaven stone, Li Fuchen closed his eyes and sensed carefully. After a long time, Li Fuchen opened his eyes. No wonder it is a subpar grade heaven stone. Apart from the Sword Dao laws that are rather weak, the rest of the laws are rather concentrated. By relying on these heaven stones, I might be able to create a few more heaven-class sword moves. A single heaven-class sword move was too weak and when encountering a formidable opponent, it was inevitable that it would be restricted. Chapter 561. In order to comprehend the profound laws within the heaven stone, the spiritual awareness was required to make contact with the heaven stone. As the spiritual awareness made contact with the heaven stone, the color and luster of the heaven stone would gradually decrease. Li Fuchen reckoned that this heaven stone or would at most allow him to comprehend for 3 days. After 3 days, it would probably turn into a piece of useless stone. I shall open up the other ores. Li Fuchen took out the ores and burst out with qi and sword intent. In just a short moment, Li Fuchen's storage bag had over 100 heaven stones. There were 158 subpar grade heaven stones and 8 low-grade heaven stones. The total value was at least 300,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 300,000 mid-grade spirit stones were equivalent to 3 billion low-grade spirit stones. But in normal situations, no one would be willing to exchange mid-grade spirit stones for low-grade spirit stones. After all, mid-grade spirit stones could be used as low-grade spirit stones, but low-grade spirit stones couldn't be used as mid-grade spirit stones. From the 7th floor of the stone gambling den, only mid-grade spirit stones could be used to purchase ores. On the next morning, Li Fuchen and Qi Junjun agreed to meet at the Soaring Rain restaurant. Li Fuchen, this is 18,000 mid-grade spirit stones. It might be able to fetch a higher price in the auction, but you should know that it is rather time-consuming and laborious. On the 15th floor, in a private room, Qi Junjun handed Li Fuchen a storage bag. This price is very reasonable. Li Fuchen nodded and received the storage bag. He then handed over the low-grade heaven stones to Qi Junjun. Many thanks. Qi Junjun revealed a delighted expression. As the young lady of the Qi clan, she knew how difficult it was for a clan to establish itself in the Emperor Sky continent. The South Mountain City might be ruled by the 4 major clans, but there were plenty of powerful clans below the 4 major clans. Among these clans, there would be 1 or 2 primary sea realm monarchs. If one of these clans produced an extremely powerful primary sea realm monarch, it would definitely impact the 4 major clans. In fact, the 4 major clans a century ago weren't the current 4 major clans. Even the Qi clan only became one of the 4 major clans 200 years ago. To a clan, connections, resources, and descendants with potential were important, but most importantly, there must be a primary sea realm monarch who could control the situation. The contest between clans was usually a contest between the strongest experts. Of course, if the strongest experts were of equal strength, then the competition would be the comprehensive strength of the clan. A piece of low-grade heaven stone would definitely be able to increase the clan's primary Sea Realm monarch's comprehension of laws. With more comprehension, there might be a day when they would break through and have a huge improvement in strength. After treating Qi Junjun to a meal, the two of them went their separate ways. Li Fuchen immediately returned to his courtyard. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During this half a month, Li Fuchen had consumed 6 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones and comprehended plenty of profound laws. Among them, he comprehended the fire laws and sword Dao laws the most, followed by other miscellaneous laws and profound mysteries. With my current law foundation, it shouldn't take too long for me to create a heaven-grade sword move with the Cloud Flame Thousand Incineration as the foundation. Li Fuchen thought to himself. The subpar-grade heaven stone might be the lowest grade heaven stone, but it was still of great help to Li Fuchen. There's no hurry. Sharpening the axe won't delay the work of cutting firewood. Let's comprehend more celestial stones. Li Fuchen continued his seclusion. Unknowingly, another month had passed. The first 12 subpar-grade heaven stones were of great help to me. Starting from the 13th one, the effects decreased sharply. At the 18th one, the effects are almost negligible. Next, I can only use low-grade heaven stones to increase my law comprehension. After letting out a breath, Li Fuchen took out a piece of low-grade heaven stone from his storage bag. The low-grade heaven stone was extremely pure and was emitting a dreamy sky-green luster. Li Fuchen released his spiritual awareness and enveloped the surface of the low-grade heaven stone. There was a loud boom and Li Fuchen could vaguely see countless strange scenes. There was water, fire, wind, thunder, light, darkness, sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. This is the legendary Great Dao Boom. Li Fuchen revealed a delighted expression. The Great Dao Boom was a scene that would only appear in legends. It was said that in this world, there was a place that was closest to the world source. The Great Dao Boom there would allow people to directly feel the profound mysteries of heaven and earth laws. Law Phase Realm Emperors would only have a chance to break through to the saint by heading there. The Great Dao Boom only lasted for a single breath. After a single breath, the Great Dao Boom vanished. It seems like low-grade heaven stones can only sustain the Great Dao Boom for a single breath. Top-notch low-grade heaven stones might be able to sustain it for 2 breaths, but it won't last for too long. Even though it was just a single breath of the Great Dao Boom, it was of greater help to Li Fuchen than 10 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones. Li Fuchen felt his spirit soul getting intoxicated and entering a numb state. In his mind, all sorts of laws appeared. Among them, the Fire Dao laws and Sword Dao laws were the most active. Flowing Merciless Edge. Li Fuchen drew with his finger and a scarlet thread appeared out of nowhere and slashed on the courtyard's array. The Pine Tree Inn's courtyard's array was a quasi-class 7 array. Even a low-level monarch would need to use his full strength to break the array. Li Fuchen didn't draw the flaming snake sword and just used his finger strength to slash open the array. However, it was enough to make the array tremble. The flowing merciless edge is now perfected. After opening his eyes, Li Fuchen's eyes flashed with radiance. Previously, the flowing merciless edge might contain the heaven-class sword intent, but the sword intent was rather coarse and the sword move's proficiency was at the sub-perfection stage. Right now, it was at the perfection stage and was just a step away from the trance stage. This allowed Li Fuchen's strength to increase by 1 level. If he was just an incredible great master previously, he was now considered a pinnacle great master. A pinnacle great master was enough to contest with weaker low-level monarchs. Li Fuchen might not be a match for them, but he wouldn't be defeated in a single clash. After consuming 1 piece of low-grade heaven stone, Li Fuchen took out the second piece. Soaring Rain Restaurant. Here are 5 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones. Li Fuchen took out 5 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones from his storage bag and handed them to Qi Junjun. 18,000 mid-grade spirit stones might seem like a lot, but it wouldn't take a long time. Li Fuchen decided to sell 5 more pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones to Qi Junjun. As for the rest, he would sell them when he reached another city. Many thanks then. When Qi Junjun received the heaven stones, she handed the storage bag to Li Fuchen. The Qi clan was willing to purchase these 5 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones for 8,000 mid-grade spirit stones. This was mainly because these 5 pieces of subpar-grade heaven stones were rather big. On average, each piece was around the size of 2 or 3 fists. Li Fuchen, you are now rather famous in South Mountain City. Many people have conferred you as a stone gambling master. Qi Junjun laughed. Li Fuchen purchased over 100 pieces of heaven stone ores and spent a total of around 100 million low-grade spirit stones, which was equivalent to 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones. After selling them, Li Fuchen obtained close to 30,000 mid-grade spirit stones and earned twice the amount of spirit stones. It didn't seem like a lot, but it was already extremely incredible. Of course, Qi Junjun didn't know that if Li Fuchen sold all the heaven stones, it wouldn't just be close to 30,000 mid-grade spirit stones, it would be at least 300,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 300,000 mid-grade spirit stones was already comparable to the entire wealth of a second-rate clan in South Mountain City. After the meal, the duo separated again. Incineration sword. In the courtyard, Li Fuchen used his finger as a sword and drew a slash. Countless scarlet bubbles appeared out of nowhere and immediately exploded. The destructive power caused the air to tremble. Incineration Sword was a heaven-class sword move created with the Cloud Flame 1000 Incineration as the foundation. This move could be gathered and dispersed. It wasn't just superior to the Cloud Flame 1000 Incineration in terms of exquisiteness, it was also superior in terms of power. If Li Fuchen was willing, a single slash was enough to form a super bubble and destroy everything within the bubble. It is a pity that I am unable to use the Meteor Sword art as the foundation to create a sword move that contains the Heaven-class sword intent. The Meteor Sword art was very special and it had been following Li Fuchen from a Mystic-class low-tier sword art to an Earth-class peak-tier sword art. This sword art didn't disappoint Li Fuchen. It was considered invincible among sword arts of the same class. Be it speed or power, it was extremely horrific. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to upgrade the Meteor Sword intent to the Heaven class. Sky Ring Sword Armor. Li Fuchen might not be able to create the Heaven class Meteor Sword art, but he used the Sky Ring Sword art as the foundation to create the Heaven class sword move, Sky Ring Sword Armor. The Sky Ring Sword art was a non-attribute sword art. It meant that it only contained Sword Dao laws and didn't contain any other laws. Li Fuchen drew a circle in the air with his right sword finger. Layers of sword light revolved around his body and quickly formed a layer of sword armor. This layer of sword armor contained astounding sword intent. This sword intent was mainly for defense and its offensive ability was mainly for defense and counterattack. As such, Li Fuchen currently possessed 3 Heaven-class sword moves. The Heaven-class sword move, Flowing Merciless Edge, was at the perfection stage. The Incineration Sword and Sky Ring Sword Armor were at the subperfection stage. With the 3 Heaven-class sword moves, Li Fuchen was definitely more well-rounded. When encountering an evenly matched opponent, he didn't have to worry about the sword moves being monotonous. The 3 sword moves, 2 for offense and 1 for defense, were enough to sustain for a long period of battle. I have not been to the 7th floor of the stone gambling den. It is time to take a look. With 26,000 mid-grade spirit stones, Li Fuchen was much more confident. This time, his targets were low-grade and mid-grade heaven stones. Especially the latter. Of course, it was still unknown if the stone gambling den had any mid-grade heaven stones, but Li Fuchen didn't have any expectations. According to what he knew, the South Mountain City would only produce 1 mid-grade heaven stone every 3 years. He didn't exclude the possibility of someone secretly obtaining a mid-grade heaven stone, but it was enough to prove how rare mid-grade heaven stones were. After arriving at the stone gambling den, Li Fuchen headed straight for the 7th floor. Master Li is here. Someone recognized Li Fuchen. 2 months ago, it was rather sensational when Li Fuchen obtained a low-grade heaven stone. During this period of time, plenty of factions had their eyes on Li Fuchen. But after knowing that Li Fuchen had sold the low-grade Heaven Stone to the Qi clan, these factions ceased their activities and didn't do anything drastic. Now that Li Fuchen had arrived at the stone gambling den, he naturally wouldn't be as unknown as 2 months ago. Li Fuchen could only laugh bitterly. Chapter 562. The 7th floor had less Heaven Stone ores than the 6th floor by more than half. All the Heaven Stone ores that could be placed on the 7th floor had excellent appearances and would easily cost 100 mid-grade spirit stones or even a few hundred mid-grade spirit stones. Li Fuchen circulated his spirit soul power to observe and noticed that the 7th floor did have more Heaven Stone ores. Out of 100 ores, there were around 4 or 5 ores that contained Heaven Stones. Especially the low-grade Heaven Stones, there were 7 of them. After thinking about it, Li Fuchen didn't buy all the ores that contained Heaven Stones on the 7th floor. If he was to buy all the ores that contained Heaven Stones in the stone gambling den, it would cause a huge commotion sooner or later. Ultimately, Li Fuchen bought 12 ores. 7 of them contained low-grade Heaven Stones, while the other 5 contained larger subpar-grade Heaven Stones. 12 ores cost Li Fuchen 2,500 mid-grade spirit stones. Subsequently, Li Fuchen arrived at the 8th floor. The 8th floor's ores were half as compared to the 7th floor. The starting price of the ores here was 200 mid-grade spirit stones, and the higher ones would go up to 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. After looking at every ore, Li Fuchen picked 9 ores. Among the 9 ores, 6 contained low-grade Heaven Stones and 3 contained subpar-grade Heaven Stones. Li Fuchen spent a total of 4,800 mid-grade spirit stones. The 8th floor doesn't even have as many low-grade Heaven Stones as the 7th floor. It seems like the difference in appearance is rather huge. Unknowingly, Li Fuchen arrived at the 9th floor. This was the limit of the floor that Li Fuchen could reach. The 10th floor was a place that only primary Sea realm monarchs could enter. It was said that the Heaven Stone ores had a starting price of 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, every 10 ores would contain at least 1 Heaven Stone. Among the mid-grade Heaven Stones produced in the South Mountain City, 9 out of 10 were from the 10th floor. As for the other floors, they might not even produce a single mid-grade Heaven Stone in 10 or 20 years. A total of 12 low-grade Heaven Stones. The 9th floor was indeed worthy of its name. The number of Heaven Stone ores was the least, but the number of low-grade Heaven Stones was the most. Ultimately, Li Fuchen spent 15,000 mid-grade spirit stones to purchase 18 ores. As such, out of the 26,000 mid-grade spirit stones that Li Fuchen brought, he was only left with 4,000 mid-grade spirit stones. It was more than 80% gone. Without cutting open the ores, Li Fuchen immediately left the stone gambling den. While walking on a spacious street, Li Fuchen suddenly stopped. On the other side, 2 young men walked over. The young man on the right was none other than Dongwu. As for the young man on the left, his cultivation had actually reached the 9th level of Battle Spirit Realm, and his disposition was slightly similar to Dongwu. It was probably the Dongwu clan's younger generation expert. I'm Dongwu. I heard that Brother Li's ability in stone gambling is extraordinary. I, Dongwu, hope that Brother Li is able to help my Dongwu clan in stone gambling. The reward is 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones a year. Dongwu spoke indifferently. Sorry, not interested. Li Fuchen remained indifferent. Wanting to buy his freedom with just 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones was looking down on him. Of course, even if the other party offered him 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones a year, he would not agree. Brother Li, there are some things that I don't want to say a second time. The first time, I invited you. The second time, I won't discuss it with you. Dongwu was the strongest expert of the Dongwu clan below the age of 100, and his strength had already attained the level of a top-rate grandmaster. He was one of the 10 great experts of the younger generation of South Mountain City. Are you threatening me? Li Fuchen let out a sneer. You can think whatever you want. I just want the result. Dongwu said. If you are a primary Sea realm monarch, I might be threatened by you. But you are just a battle spirit realm master. Li Fuchen's figure flashed and brushed past Dongwu Junyan. Such speed. Dongwu Junyan's eyes contracted. For that instant earlier, he wanted to stop Li Fuchen, but he was already a step too late. Big brother Junyan, why don't you capture him and bring him back to the Dongwu clan? Dongwu Xiaonan didn't understand. The South Mountain City didn't allow killing, but the Dongwu clan was one of the 4 major clans. If the killing didn't cause too big of a commotion, the city lord residents would normally turn a blind eye. Dongwu Junyan said, "This child must not be underestimated. If I wish to capture him, I will need to use at least 50% of my strength. It will cause too big of a commotion. Then we are just going to let it go like this?" Dongwu Xiaonan was unwilling. Dongwu Junyan said coldly, "It isn't convenient for me to make a move in the city. Once we exit the city, it isn't up to him anymore. I still didn't obtain any mid-grade heaven stones after all. Perhaps only the 10th floor of the stone gambling den has mid-grade heaven stones." After returning to the courtyard, Li Fuchen let out a sigh. If he had mid-grade heaven stones, he was 90% certain that he would be able to increase the flowing merciless edge to the trance stage. By then, his chi cultivation strength would definitely reach the monarch class master level. A monarch class master was already able to contest with low-level primary C realm monarchs. Great masters were only able to exchange moves with weaker low-level primary C realm monarchs and were still far from being able to kill them normally. It seems like it is time to leave the South Mountain City and visit other cities. Li Fuchen had the intention to leave. On this day, Li Fuchen checked out of the courtyard and left the South Mountain City. Young Master Junyan, he has left the city. Inside a restaurant, Dongwu Junyan obtained a piece of information regarding Li Fuchen. Is he finally leaving the city? Dongwu Junyan finished the wine in his cup and immediately went downstairs. Young lady, Dongwu Junyan has caught up. In the opposite restaurant, Qi Junjun had also obtained the information. Is he really going to make a move on Li Fuchen? But Dongwu Junyan alone isn't a match for Li Fuchen. With the Qi observation technique, Qi Junjun knew that Li Fuchen wasn't as simple as a regular battle spirit realm master. She must not be deceived by his cultivation. But just in case, it is better to go take a look. "Fifth uncle, follow me to take a look," Qi Junjun said to a corner. "It seems like my Junjun is tempted." There was originally no one in the corner, but when the voice echoed, a figure appeared in Qi Junjun's vision. It was a handsome middle-aged man. If someone was here, they would definitely be able to see that the handsome middle-aged man was a primary C realm monarch. Because only primary C realm monarchs could alter the natural environment and conceal their traces. Qi Junjun's face revealed a trace of redness. "Fifth uncle, I have yet to make a decision. I am purely curious." Curiosity is the first step to falling. Forget it, let me see what is so special about this child and why he is worthy of your attention. The handsome middle-aged man grabbed Qi Junjun and flashed before vanishing without a trace. Outside of the South Mountain City, it was boundless and spacious. A figure skimmed across the sky like a divine flame with extreme speed. At the back, there was a thunderbolt that was chasing at an even faster speed. The divine flame stopped and revealed its figure. Who else could it be other than Li Fuchen? The thunderbolt behind had also dispersed, and it was Dongwu Junyan. "Brotherly, let me ask you again. Are you willing to serve my Dongwu clan?" Dongwu Junyan had an unfeeling expression. "Just you alone?" Li Fuchen asked. "I alone am enough," Dongwu Junyan said confidently. He was one of the top 10 youth experts of the South Mountain City. Apart from a few individuals below the primary C realm, no one was a match for him. If he couldn't do it, then he would probably have to ask for help from a primary C realm monarch. But the Dongwu clan's primary C realm monarchs weren't so free. If they had to make a move against a battle spirit realm master, wouldn't they be extremely busy? Unless Li Fuchen was worthy for them to make a move. "If you are alone, then you better return. You aren't a match for me," Li Fuchen said indifferently. "Shameless boasting. It seems like you are going to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Dongwu Junyan clenched his right fist tightly and it was emitting thunderbolts while a thunder flood dragon gathered on his right arm. I will ask you again. Are you willing or not? Dongwu Junyan said word by word. Of course not. Li Fuchen had an indifferent expression. Since that is the case, I shall capture you and make you serve my Dongwu clan for 100 years. As for the reward, there is not a single cent. Dongwu Junyan had a sinister expression as he blasted a fist at Li Fuchen. There was a sonorous dragon roar. The thunder flood dragon that was coiled around Dongwu Junyan's right arm swam around like a thunderbolt and instantly appeared in front of Li Fuchen. Just this fist was something that regular elite masters wouldn't be able to block. I said it before, you aren't a match for me. Li Fuchen didn't even draw his sword. He raised his right index and middle finger and thrust. PFFF. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.